Bars in a raid, man, I go hard like Santan.
Back again. Welcome to the latest episode of Touchline Hotspur. We've got a great cast here today. Owen, I'm loving the shirt.
I'll stop it, you. Thank you.
How you doing, Owen? You good, yeah?
I'm very well, brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Glad to be back. Tops, how you feeling, man?
Yeah, good today, bro. I can't really complain.
I thought that was the goat that you had in the background there. I was about to say. Loving it. Dave, how you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. Had a few days to recover from the abysmal performance at the weekend. And it's, on to hopefully sunnier times with Sheffield United on the cusp. No, I'm good, man. It's all good, man. Blessed to be alive, do you mean?
Yeah, it's funny. I guess it's funny to see a group of Spurs fans like smiling right now. Probably seems like there's not much to smile about from the outside looking in. But I mean, just to start off on one positive, like Mourinho's still gone. No sign of him coming back right now. But yeah, let's start with the final, man, because that's the hot topic, really, isn't it? Like, we've got Ryan Mason picking, let's say, interesting lineup with some surprising omissions before the kickoff, like, and that had the group chat going off. So I don't know who wants to kick us off. Like, what did you think about Ryan Mason's lineup going into the game?
It was shocking. I'm sorry, that pissed me off from the jump. That got me going from the jump. I was like, look, okay. We all, was it last week? I think we all said Winks is probably going to play. You know, those that listened to last week's pod, we pretty much all kind of agreed Winks will probably get a shout. You know, he'd come on for 20 minutes in midweek or so. Looked decent enough. So, yeah, he starts. But then Giovanni himself over Tongi and Ndombele against Man City. Really? Man, that for me was that was a criminal offence, man. Like our pod colleague would say, Yao, you know, come on down, Ryan Mason, come on down. You need to have a word. The thing is, like, from a tactical standpoint, in the game, you know, when you're playing against Man City, you need to have someone who can beat the press. Yeah. And Tongi is that guy. That's not just us saying that as Spurs fans. Even in our bad performances, you know, when we lost 1-0 to Chelsea, any highlights you saw from the game, it was Tongi putting people in the blender. Yeah. Do you know? When we signed him, you know, his highlights were that game for Lyon or Lille, wherever he came from, against Man City in the Champions League. You know, so
even to add to that, I'm thinking, like, as soon as I saw, like, obviously we thought going into the game, we thought Kane was injured. So I mean, without Kane, as far as I was concerned, Ndombele was going to be the first name on the team sheet before I saw what Ryan Mason did. Man. Like, it's crazy for the reasons you just listed as well. Like, his performances against Man City in the past, it was crazy. And I mean, why do you think, Owen? Why do you think he chose to play that midfield? I guess.
I think in his mind he wanted the ball retention and energy in midfield, which he may not have thought and Ndombele at the time had.
It was crazy.
Sissoko at the same time. Yeah, I don't know. Højbjerg, Winks, the Celso, I guess you could say they have a lot of energy and on paper should have adequate ball retention. Mm-hmm. I was hoping his thinking was that he would just have Ndombele on ice and then just come on the second half if we were still in the game.
More wishful thinking from us.
Sorry?
I'll say this, more wishful thinking from us Spurs fans, man. We all thought we knew what was going on. Like,
yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know. That first half, I guess I appreciate what Ryan Mason was trying to do to an extent, right? Because we were trying to not only try and play through midfield, we were trying to just play straight up from the back. And I think it was just doing a bit too much. like I appreciate. Okay, we've got a landscape, the team for the next manager that takes over, who should adopt a similar philosophy, but to do it in a final, to completely change our play style against by far the best team in the country, it just didn't work. So what we saw in the first half was you didn't necessarily see the defenders trust Højbjerg and Winks that much in deep positions. We ended up hitting it long quite a lot. Whenever Winks or Højbjerg got the ball, there wasn't necessarily that much movement up top. There wasn't necessarily that trust or that desire to make angles for each other. It's not something we had been working on for that long, so it was to be expected, man. So that was, I guess, detriment to us and one of the main causes of what was a shocking first half performance. I don't know how we came into it 0-0, and Lo Celso especially, when we did actually get the ball to him, was absolutely tragic. So yeah, that first half, again, I think we were just trying to do too much. We were lucky to go into it 0-0.
Definitely,
very lucky.
definitely true. Tops.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
sorry to put pressure on you, man, but if you had to pick who was the worst out of that midfield three on the day and who was the best, who would you pick?
Oh, the worst. It was Lo Celso, without a doubt. I know people
I don't know why you delayed on that one.
I saw Owen look stressed this.
They'll turn around and say he had a decent start to the second half. But honestly, the first half was shocking, man. The game completely bypassed him. Lack of energy. I don't really want to comment on his effort, but I didn't really see him really at the races, considering it was a cup final. It was baffling having him in the team, to be honest with you. I was very disappointed with him. I've been disappointed with him since he's come back from injury, and I can't really put my finger on why. Who do I think was the best in the midfield? I mean, the best of a bad bunch. I'm probably going to say Højbjerg, but, we were clearly outnumbered in that game, especially in the midfield. So Højbjerg and Winks were pulled from side to side. I understand why he wanted to pick Winks, but then I also feel like Ndombele doesn't get enough credit in terms of how much he's improved on his defensive work. And I feel like to throw Winks in there without being in there for 10 games in a cup final, I don't know. I just think he got that wrong, man. And if he was going to play Winks, then you've got to trust Ndombele in that 10 instead of Lo Celso, and we didn't, man. So,
you know what the funny thing is? Just adding to that, Lo Celso wasn't really playing a 10. It was a 4-3-3 kind of setup.
Yeah.
And actually,
which is what we've been waiting for.
We've been waiting for a midfield three where Ndombele doesn't maybe have to do as much. But let's be honest, when Ndombele played, in our midfield against City, the first game of the season that we played against him, when we won, was it 2-0? He did a good job. He was able to help defensively. He was able to, obviously, when he gets on the ball, his ball retention is second to none in our squad. And like I said, playing Winks is a risk. But actually, I think if you play Winks and Ndombele, I think the biggest mistake was Lo Celso, and that panned out through the game. And then obviously, you get to 60 minutes and you're somehow clinging on to a 0-0 draw because they didn't have their shooting boots on, And if you notice, their press started to pull back. They weren't giving us as much pressure. So
exactly.
They didn't respect us. They didn't even respect us at that point.
That's this time.
Carragher spoke on it a little bit, but he mentioned that he just thought the midfielders didn't have courage and they weren't brave enough to take the ball on. And there were lots of times in that first half that City came with quite a high press because they could see that we were trying to play it from the back. And we actually have a player. How many teams have players who are literally press resistant, who are happy to take the ball in tight areas and try break into sort of the final third or into the middle third? We literally have a player who's capable of doing that. And the funny thing about this press is that every time we beat the press, we look like we could break on them. But we didn't do it enough. And it's just
that's what was so frustrating for me with Lucas Moura.
It's so silly.
Because he was actually tucking in.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying that I think the only bright spark, I guess, in the first half was Lucas Moura, who would break through. And it's interesting whenever we do have players who can consistently dribble past one or two people, except the difference between Ndombele and Lucas Moura is Ndombele releases the ball, whereas Lucas Moura would either just carry on going for the third man or he would get fouled. Fair enough, he got a few yellow cards, well done. But yeah, like that. Ndombele, I didn't hate the fact that he didn't start because coming on against a tiring Man City in the second half, fresh. Yeah, that would have been a game changer. We were still level in the game, so yeah, it was more just the fact he didn't come on whatsoever. It's sus.
And he came on instead of him.
He
takes off the one. So you start the Celso to retain the ball, right? Because you think he will carry it forward and maybe make something happen on the off chance. Okay, you take him off and you bring on Sissoko. Like, of all the players you could bring on, bruv, we've seen this before. We've seen Winks Sissoko in a final before, and it didn't work then. So
we've seen this movie, man. We've seen this movie already.
I don't want to see a Winks Sissoko double pivot in 2021. I'm sorry. No, thank you. I'm sorry, man. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore, man. No.
I think that the rest of the team is not balanced enough right now for the Winks and Sissoko midfield to work. I mean, when we used it before, that was maybe like one of the bigger problems in the squad. Whereas now I feel like there are quite a few problems, and the Sissoko Winks midfield, it just adds to like a list of problems that we already have. So I mean, I'm fully in agreement with Tops there. Like, I don't want to see it at all going into next year or as things go on. Even as a midfield three, I mean, I was going to ask if you think it's different with them two in a midfield three, but how do you feel about it? Do you want to see them both in a midfield three with someone else, maybe Tonge?
What, with Winks and Sissoko?
Yeah.
No, because Sissoko is static. I think for me, and we saw this with the goal that we conceded.
Yeah,
he's flat-footed, man, and you can't play flat-footed, ship level or whatever. Just football as a whole, and we've seen it in terms of the final. Gets caught out on his feet, and I think just as time has gone on and his confidence has kind of gone, he doesn't play many games for us, and most will say rightly so. But I think every time he comes on, he's flat-footed. I think we picked out. I can't remember what game it was. Was it Aston Villa? When he drifted into the box, no sense of urgency. The few things that he could do very well before, he doesn't do anymore. So he's just a very bad option. And it's very easy to dominate a midfield with Ndombele, Sissoko, and Winks. Obviously, you need to have Højbjerg in there for me. And Winks, if you're going to play him, cool. Understand what he brings as a player. I'm not his biggest fan, as you guys know in the group chat. But if you're going to put him in there, you've got to have another option. I think a player like Tongi, or even if you're playing Ali in midfield, someone who can come close, get the ball, play on a half turn, and go from there. But Sissoko is not that option for me.
Let's put some more attention onto the defense and the goalkeeper. I mean, this is going maybe about 3-4 games in a row now, but probably Luis was the best performer out of the back five. And I guess for me, from my perspective, it's a bit worrying because I'm looking at Luis's contract, I think Joe Hart's contract, and is it Whiteman? I think all of their contracts end in July or something like that, something crazy like that. So I don't know what's happening at the moment. But yeah, I mean, Lloris, I think I wouldn't say it was a great performance. In fact, I think it was a good performance. There was a lot of shots at them. Some were right at him, but he made a lot of crucial saves. Do you know what I mean? He was there when he needed to be. He was big on the line. And I think that the defense could have relied on him on that day. He should have made them a bit more confident. It's a shame. It's such a shame that the goal came from, as Dave said, sort of Sissoko coming in, being a bit flat-footed. It looked like he was making decisions as well. It looked like, from my perspective, it looked like Dyer was pointing out I can't remember who scored the goal. Was it
Laporte?
Laporte.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dyer was pointing him out as well in Sissoko's shadow, and it looked like Sissoko was so busy kind of giving orders, he didn't even kind of take. You know what I mean? He didn't even realize what had happened until it was too late. So it's a shame. But I say all of that to say I don't necessarily think the defense was that bad today, which is surprising.
No. I feel like they did as best as they could, kept the score low. Everything that's kind of thrown at them, Dyer and Alderweireld, they dealt with. It was the fullbacks that had absolute mares, as usual.
Going forward.
I can't seem to put my finger on Reguilon at the moment. He's just completely out of form. Looked a shadow of the player that we first signed.
The work you done, man.
Giving balls away. I mean, I'm really quite confused. And Aurier, like, again, not really wanting to help release some of the pressure from the centre halves. And then obviously, these silly, needless sort of fouls in key areas. Obviously, the foul that led to the, in a corner where Sterling is obviously going nowhere. I'm happy for you to just shadow him and just jockey him. But he has to bring him down, and obviously that led to the free kick from which we conceded. So I can't speak too positively about those two at the moment. But I have to give props to the centre halves. I feel like for what they could do, they did okay, and I suppose they just didn't have much help from the midfield really to kind of release that pressure, especially when we were trying to play out so often as well.
Yeah, I agree. Owen or Dave, does anybody have any context on why the fullbacks are suffering so much at the moment, or perspective, I guess, to offer?
I'm not sure. I feel like Reguilon might have been rushed back from injury a bit quickly. Like, I mean, I can't really explain it. They've all kind of just fallen off a cliff. Even like I've been saying for only a little while now that the squad looked physically and mentally just burnt out, and this looks more so the case, especially in Reguilon. Aurier, I felt like he had a good game against Southampton, but I'm not sure what's going on with Reguilon. And I can only guess he might still be carrying an injury, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he's just warning Real Madrid that, you can't really come in for me in the summer because I'm just not playing well enough. And then he'll just kick on and play well next season. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping.
I think for me with Reguilon is his hesitancy. He's overthinking everything. I think that's where it is, both defensively and going forward. You saw that time. Yes, Højbjerg should have shot for me. Even on your weaker foot, you just hit the ball. You got Zach Steffen in goal. Come on, it's not Allison. It's not Neuer. It's Zach Steffen in goal. Hit the ball, man. But he makes that pass, and Reguilon's checked his run. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't have seen that, and often you do find with especially younger players from the continent who are used to having a break over Christmas or Easter or whatever. It does pick up. And remember, we started off the season, when he came in on his debut for that Chelsea game, that was in the middle of 10 games in 3 weeks or whatever. So he's probably played a lot of football at a level of intensity which is a bit higher, plus the injury, plus a team that's not clicking, and he's played his best for us when our midfield is working, when he's got cover behind him, when he's got a nice, when someone's the centre backs are dominating, playing a bit higher up the pitch. He's not built for starting his run from the edge of our box.
Yeah,
I think he needs to play near the halfway, but Danny Rose in his prime, and obviously we saw Kyle Walker on the other side. I think that's where the main difference for me in look at his best performances is when we played on the front foot. As soon as we go ultra defensive, he doesn't seem to be as good as coping with that kind of game, especially since he's come back from injury. It's a shame. I think he's a great player, and hopefully, like Owen says, this means that Perez, who's obviously got his eye on other prizes in the world of football, forgets about Sergio Reguilon, and leaves him in London to just hang around London for an extra year.
See, I hope. I would say though, just in his defense, I think Mahrez on that kind of form was going to make anybody look like that. In some ways, like Mahrez was making. I mean, just in terms of like every run that he made up the field, it looked like Mahrez was in behind him afterwards. If you get what I mean, like that kind of thing. It just put the full stop on what was probably already a bit of a bad performance by his standards, man. It's just making it look worse. And then I suppose we need to like go towards. Do you know what? I want to approach this from a bit of a different angle, but let's talk about Harry Kane. But let's talk about Kane coming back from injury, specifically like before finals or before big games. Like, has it ever worked? Furthermore, I'm trying to think of a time where it's like the free kicks that he lines up for, isn't it? It's like we all know it's not going in. So I mean, at the moment, seeing Kane rushed back into the squad, it doesn't even feel like a talisman sign for me. It felt like a bad thing, like to see his name there at the beginning of the game. I felt like he'd probably been rushed. And I wasn't expecting much, and I don't think I saw much. I don't know if anybody disagrees.
No, man. Well, sorry, Erik. I suppose you can kind of see a pattern, really, isn't it? Because finals, semi-finals tend to be towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. We haven't really, for a long time, had a second striker to kind of give him help towards the latter part of the season. And he does tend to pick up these injuries towards this sort of latter part of the season when he probably has been run into the ground. And obviously, we've had big sort of quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals that he's now obviously been picked for. But I feel like it's not just him though. You know, I wouldn't say it's just him. There's lots of players that have been in the squad for a while now that have not really performed in these sort of big games. But I feel for him because, you know, I saw a stat where we've been in like the last 3 finals or 4 finals and not scored a goal. So someone would arguably look at him. They would say maybe, you know, our best player should have it in him to be able to pull us forward or pull us through in any of these sort of big games. But I just feel it's just been unlucky. Like, I mean, I'm of the mentality that you always have your best players on the pitch, you know, and I also feel it's different with him because he is one of these players in world football who has an elite mentality and can back that elite mentality with his elite capabilities as a footballer. So I do believe that in these kind of games, you need players like Kane, whether they're 50, 60, 70%. I'm always going to caveat that this is only in a specific number of players because you don't have players who have as high a quality of player as he. You don't have players as high or as good as a mentality as him. So the argument of whether we should be playing him or whether we expect to, I mean, if he says to the manager he's fit, just play. It's just a shame that the last sort of 3-4 big games that we've had in these semi-final, final cup scenarios, he hasn't played amazingly, and there's always that element of doubt because he's sort of 50-50 whether he's actually fully fit or not. You know?
Man, it's funny when you were saying, you know, when you were saying when you saw his name on the team sheet, you didn't exactly feel like it was, he's going to be a talisman like in the States. Exactly how I felt in the Champions League final. Funny enough, like I'll have receipts going back. I didn't want him to start that final. Typically, I feel like when he tends to come back from injury or tends to come back to start us a new season, he's a bit of a slow starter anyway. Furthermore, like I feel like even when he's 100%, him being in the team as the talisman, which he is generally, he does tend to slow down our play just a little bit, just to kind of for him to be, you know, the guy that plays a bit of hero ball. I feel like if he's 60, 70%, 80% even, it's not worth starting him. It's not worth starting because like you were saying as well, you were questioning, has it ever worked? It hasn't ever worked. If rushing him back from injury has never ever worked. So for me, like it was a mistake to start him.
I think put things in perspective. The last 2 finals, so Champions League final and obviously Sunday, we went up against, teams that, the Liverpool team were obviously ultra dominant the following season, but they were on a good run. They produced in the league, the kind of form that would usually win, a league title. And they've been at the Champions League final the year before. It's interesting that their tactics changed for the final. They didn't play like Liverpool in the final. They played like every away team that we faced in that season where we struggled to score. What was it? We went from January to like October without an away win. They sat back and they said, right, you're going to have to break us down. And we had Winks and Sissoko in the middle. So Kane had no chance. And if you notice, Kane didn't have his first shot till the 70th minute. What happened in the 70th minute?
I feel like this was mostly Eriksen's fault. But
yeah. But, Winks goes off, right? Mora comes on. You got some direct running. When you got direct running, it opens up the game. At their pomp, when we had, Eriksen, Kane, Son, Dele Alli, in full flow. I remember going to watch something when we dismantled Huddersfield or something, 5-0 at Wembley or whatever. And their movement off the ball is what creates these opportunities for Kane. Yeah. Like Owen said, Kane's not quick. He's got a bit of a burst and he can beat a player, with a little. He does the slowest kind of shimmy, but it still works. He either beats it or he gets a foul. But he has that kind of capacity to open up the game, but that usually happens when things around him are moving quickly and the defenders have decisions to make about which player they're going to go and mark or whatever. And then he can play off those runs. He finds a bit of space, takes those long shots. He's great outside the box. He's a great finisher. But both finals, we've just sat back or we've struggled to break them down. So he can get easily kind of played out of the game because of our own tactics in some ways. And I think that's what we're seeing. We saw it on Sunday. And like I said, the last two finals, this City team, we saw them last night against PSG. When they switched it on, they're ultra dominant. They may be winning their third title. They are going to win their third title in 4 years. That's dynasty. That's legacy type team building. So put it into perspective. Yes, he hasn't done it well, but against those kind of teams, you have to be playing as a team. It's not just one player that's going to dig you out. We see it with Man United and Fernandes. We people talk about his record in big games because individual brilliance just can't always cut it. Yeah, you need to have the team firing on all cylinders, or at least as many cylinders as you can get going. And we just haven't been able to do that. So, that goes with our managers and just some of our players.
I felt like Kane wasn't sharp. That moment in the second half where he actually did have a few good moments, to be fair, like when he dropped deep and got it on the half turn. He found Son with quite a few nice passes across the field. He held onto the ball quite well and fed it. But I knew he wasn't sharp when he saw Højbjerg through on goal. And I know it's Højbjerg, but he took 2 or 3 extra touches, then went to release it, and when the move was gone because he was trying to work an angle for a shot. I was just like, oh boy, that could have actually been. That was probably our best opening in the whole game, to be honest. And
it was. I mean, yeah, you're right.
Hero ball.
It's not.
It's like times like that is also when I get annoyed about this team as well, because in that position, man, he's looking for the best option because there's no decent option. So he's almost trying to delay it so that he can either make a decision to play to make an opportunity for himself, or when it's too late and he can't, he's got to play that ball to Højbjerg. But by that point, Højbjerg he's got to take it on his left. He's got to just look. You've got to think of what the probability is of him getting a shot off, him passing the ball, him maybe coming back. By that point, the chance is almost dead.
No, fully agree. And I guess it kind of just takes us back full circle now to thinking I guess the silver lining on everyone's mind at the time of sacking Mourinho was that the final's coming up. I'm not gonna act like everyone thought we were gonna win it or anything like that. It was just something that there was to look forward to. So I mean, how do you feel now, like about the rest of the season and going into next season? Like, what are you looking forward to? Are you looking forward to the new manager? Is it new? Is it players leaving? Is it new players? I'm gonna throw that towards you, Dave.
I think it's a bit of all of the above. I think for me, I'm looking forward to seeing the new manager come in. All the signs indicate that we're going for someone more progressive, someone more attacking. But we're not going to be able to do much of that with the current squad. You know, Soko's not going to all of a sudden turn into prime Michael Essien. You know, late runs into the box and box to box dynamic. He's not going to do that. So he needs to go. Erik and Toby, they had a great partnership on Sunday. They did very well. They thrown themselves in front of everything. Great, cool, fine, thanks. Dyer, time to pack your bags. See you later, brother. Do you know what I mean? Sanchez, it's okay. Sanchez, you can find your flight. Once everything opens up, take your passport. See you later, brother. I mean, you just need to move on now. It's not 2019. I think Ryan Mason, not only did he show himself to be an academy coach, but also he showed himself to be living in the past. He picked a 2019 team and tried to find a way to make it work in a really. Yes, he didn't have a lot of time, but anyone that watches football can tell you that lineup was not going to get the job done. Neither was bringing on Sissoko. So I think now I'm looking forward to the new manager. I think I'm looking forward to that more than anything else. But then, second would be players going, and obviously, we get some money for it, decent money, then we can reinvest that, and see where we go from there.
All right, let's stick with managers for a second. I guess the names that are being thrown around at the moment, you've got Ten Hag, you've got Brendan Rodgers, I think, was it Sarri? These were like the hot names. I'm not saying these are the guys that are coming in, but Sarri, and then I think there was one more, if anyone wants to throw it in, I can't remember.
Potter. People were saying Southgate as well, but I
that's the worst one for me. I just don't want to see. I don't want to have to look at Southgate. I don't think that's too much to ask for. I don't even. I don't think that's too much to ask for. The same way I don't want to watch England play like too often. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to watch the England players, but I don't really want to see anything Southgate has to say. Like it never seems like it's gonna change the outcome of an England game or anything.
Can I just jump in? Like the worst thing about the concept of Southgate coming to our club is that we're going to have to watch the whole of the Euros, wait for England to get bounced, and then he starts. So it's not even like he comes in a bit early and can get some players in, whatever. My man's we're going to have to sit there, watch him probably flop, and then go, oh, man.
It's not happening. It's not happening. I refuse to believe.
That's our guy.
You're going to watch him flop with like Sancho, these guys, and then come back and
and then go for attacking football. My man playing Calvin Phillips and Rice and Henderson in a three-man midfield.
I hope we can like seriously just say like that's a ridiculous shout and it's never gonna happen, man, because I'm seeing too much news saying that, and I think I personally I'm taking it as trolling, innit? I'm not taking it seriously. I'm taking Potter a lot more seriously than that, and I don't want Potter either. I'm just taking it more seriously. I was gonna ask though if one of you guys could sell Ten Hag to me, because I'm not too familiar with Ten Hag.
Yeah, man, definitely, man. Like, am
I even saying it right?
Yeah, you are. Erik Ten Hag,
cool,
Erik Ten Hag, man. Yeah, man. So obviously, as you know, Ajax coach for the last this is 3 years. He's 3 years into a 4-year contract, which actually falls next summer. He actually was, before he became the Ajax manager, he had 2 roles. He had a long role in FC Utrecht, where he was manager there for 2 years, and then before that, he learned his craft under Pep as one of the head coaches at Bayern for the reserves. So a lot of his football sort of philosophy, I think, from what I've read and what I've seen, has been based on, or has quite a bit of an imprint from what Pep used to do at Bayern Munich, or the way he sort of plays now. So largely, his football really is possession-based football, whereby there's large amounts of pressing in the attacking thirds, a lot of movement in between the lines. Generally, he always plays like a 4-2-3-1 or like a 4-3-3, whereby he has sort of high running or high flying sort of fullbacks, two ball playing centre backs. In the midfield, he operates with sort of a double pivot, whereby one of the double pivot generally tends to be someone who is very competent on the ball, and that person generally likes to always drop into the midfield, into the defence to create a three to allow the fullbacks to go, and then he also has a almost attacking 8 or a 10 who basically can become interchangeable with the striker. So if you obviously remember his time in Ajax during that Champions League run, he had very good players in De Ligt, who was obviously a ball playing centre back. He had Frankie De Jong as that sort of CDM who was very competent on the ball. He had Donny van de Beek as like that 8 who was kind of interchanging with Tadic up top. And then he had very good sort of fullbacks that were happy to go up and stay up. He generally likes to have players in the attacking sort of areas. He likes to have his wingers. They have to kind of be very fluid. He likes them to be able to interchange positions quite well, and he likes them to be able to have the ability to be very, very clinical, and they have to be able to have the ability to find space in the half spaces, in the central areas, and also in the flanks. So that if the fullbacks are sort of running wild on the flanks, then he can trust them to come inside and support the strikers. Or if they are a bit more, sort of relaxed, they can kind of take that space out on the flanks. So it does seem to me that he is very much possession based. He very, very much relies on, I wouldn't say tiki taka, but the ability to create sort of movement in that midfield where you can kind of work around teams. And they're very, very high pressing in terms of the way they harry teams. They like to use the attacking players to cross off passing lanes. And then the midfielders, he generally likes for them to just harry. So that when they do lose the ball, they generally can get it back quite quickly. I would kind of say probably the only negative about that style of play is that generally, if you have a team who is happy to play out through that press, it then can find that his teams generally do find themselves a little bit on. They can be easily countered, and that's probably where they tend to lose goals. Or there are teams that they play against that tend to give them trouble when they kind of have the ability to counter or sort of break that press. So generally, the possession is very important. The ability to press is very important. The attacking fluidity is also very important. And I say this, the positional sense of the attack of the midfielders, because he generally relies on those guys to kind of set the pace of the game. I do kind of like what he's done at Ajax for a number of reasons. First of all, I like the way he plays. They generally try and keep the possession, and they try and take a lot of shots as a team. He's he's renowned for also working very well with lots of young players, players like Ryan Gravenberch. Obviously, the guys I mentioned earlier on before. They've got a really good right back called Mazrui, who he's kind of developed. They've got a midfielder named Mohamed Kudus, which has come through the ranks, and it kind of bodes well for us because we have players like Cess and Skip, Sirkin and White. Arguably Dombele.
Because I was going to ask
Bergman as well. Like he can kind of help improve these kind of players as well. Sorry,
No, because the way you're talking about his playing style, like that sounds interesting to me. And obviously, I've seen Ajax here and there, and they play pretty well. But like my initial feeling would have been, I don't know if our squad can do that. But you started pointing. I think that's what I was going to say. I think you pointed out some good players though, like in the youth squad, maybe like. So maybe it needs. Sorry, go on.
one thing I think that like is very important is that, yes, Dave mentioned it as well to start with, is that he's going to need the players to do some of what he needs to do. But I also do believe that there's a lot of players already in the squad who have the abilities to do things that he wants us to do. So, for instance, I feel like in Reguilon, he has the type of fullback that he would absolutely love, because that's a player who's happy to take on players in the attacking third, and he will be up and down that flank. In a player who has the ability to retain possession, he has an Ndombele. In the kind of creative or sort of fluid attacking players, he has people like technically Bergwijn, technically Son, and then he has players like Kane, who you would take on a role similar to sort of like Tadic, whereby he can play as sort of the advanced striker, but he also can revert and play in a position that is a bit reduced. Even like the position he used to play Donny van der Beek, I would arguably say, you know, if you were to maybe recoach or restyle Ali's game, Ali could probably play in that position as well, whereby he could be moving in between the spaces between the sort of midfield and the sort of attacking third. So in many respects, I feel like there are players that will be able to influence or take on his style of play. But like they've said as well, there's a lot of players that I don't think have the ability to be able to carry out a lot of what he would want. And that is where I feel like if, in many respects, we could go for him, it would only be if we were able to support him in releasing the players that really are not of the level and bringing in the type of players, even some of the players that he's got at Ajax now, to try and implement that style of play. Because I do feel that there are aspects of our squad that are genuinely like-for-like sort of players that he would probably take on in his sort of team. But again, as well, as we said, the squad needs a huge rehash. And I feel like because he's almost a progressive manager and he supports the young players, I feel like you kind of have a bit of a go-between or similar sort of style in terms of what Pochettino was. Because one of the things I really liked about Pochettino, even though we didn't have an amazing depth of quality players, his ability to coach and improve those players is what I really, really liked about him. And I feel like this is a sort of manager that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yes, get rid of the deadwood, but we have, you know, significant quality in some areas that he can build around. I think a lot of the kind of critique of him is the fact that we obviously came back and we beat them in that Champions League game. We were very lucky, let's be honest. And in context, I think a lot of that was down to the fact that we had experience on the pitch. They didn't. They were a very young team at the time. We had a bit more experience on the pitch. Obviously, we got lucky with the last goal, you know, whatever. But also, remember that Ajax team had in the previous 2 rounds, I think, one of the rounds they played Real Madrid, and they went to the Bernabeu and beat them 4-1, you know, to qualify. They were down, you know, in the tie, and they came back. They had their own comebacks in the previous 2 rounds. So he's obviously got something about him in terms of going up against the top teams. Because I think the one critique when you're taking a manager from even like how we took Poch from Southampton, or you take a manager from especially from the Dutch league, you're thinking, can they hack it in the Premiership, which is a lot more competitive? You know, 8 can lose to 16, you know, easily, and it won't even look lopsided sometimes. You know, you look at the likes of a Brighton who play attractive football even though they're lower down the league. So I think that's the one thing that people are kind of hung up on. Can he do it week in, week out with us? But I think within our team, if we keep certain players, we will have enough Premiership quality to be able to ride out those games. I'm a big fan of him, and I think for me, it's when we go up against the top teams, or even not so much quote unquote the traditional big six, but even a team like Leicester. You know, can you trust him to go away to Leicester and get the points? I think with his style of play, we can do that. But it's going to mean that Levy's going to have to give him some free rein in some respects, because you can't go into a season with our current squad with Ten Hag and expect magic. It's just not going to happen. These players, some of them are 2 years past their sell-by date. And you know what happens when you have food that's off? It makes you sick. No more stomach bugs, man. We need to get them out. No.
And another agenda I'm seeing about Ten Hag specifically relates back to Kane, and people saying that maybe his brand of football is probably not best for Kane right now, in terms of Kane wanting to see team trophies right now. Some people are telling me that because we need to make like some key changes for Ten Hag's football to be like as efficient as it could be. That maybe that might be the last straw kind of for Kane, and he might move for the short-term gains. Owen, what's your thoughts on that?
Boy, I do wonder if Ten Hag might end up meeting with Levy, because it's been widely rumored now that they're now scheduled to meet. If Ten Hag realizes his power, in a sense, like he's probably like the only top candidate on the continent now that's viable to come to Tottenham, and he could be like, well, I want this, assure me this. I don't know, I'm just still not sold on him. Like, what the question in general, what was it, what can he do in the short term? Or
it's because I guess Kane wants to see, or the idea is Kane wants to see trophies now. So Kane's comments recently in the media were that it feels bittersweet, I think was the exact word he said, to win individual accolades, and he'd much rather be winning team accolades. So there's been some like rumblings around that maybe if Ten Hag comes in and he needs a bit more time to make his mark, that maybe that might not fit Kane's agenda, and Kane, that might force Kane's hand, so he might have to leave.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm still not fully sold on Ten Hag. I'm not even sure. Even if he does sue, like, it's not going to happen straight away. Like, there's definitely going to be, it's going to be the middle of our rebuild period now, and almost to paraphrase Poch, like, it's going to be, we're going to suffer. It's going to be bad. So if Kane, I mean, I'm sure Kane knows that. It's just a question of if there's a market that will purchase him or not. Because realistically, I think one of the best things that could happen for Ten Hag is we do get a really good fee for Kane, and he could potentially use that money on top of other players that we should be selling, 10 plus, to start to build some of his team and the way he needs to play. Because I mean, with the squad we've got and the way Ten Hag wants to play, it ain't it, and it will take a lot more than just time to get them playing even remotely his way.
Do you know what? Sorry, this is a bit random here, but this just come back to my head. I probably should have brought this up before, but what do you guys think of the rumors that Levy or one of the reasons why Levy got rid of Mourinho is that, or like specifically at that moment, is that Mourinho wanted to rest players for the final. He wanted to prioritize the final, and Levy wanted to prioritize the league. Does that sound likely?
Yeah, I mean, either way, we all know Mourinho probably would have played Sanchez in the final. Yeah. But he talks, and in the last, when Mourinho first came in, I was like, right, cool. Our style of football is going to go down the drain, but we'll probably be able to win a couple of things, or one trophy, an FA Cup, Europa, that kind of thing. But it was evident in the past 2 months at least, when we've just been absolutely atrocious. That he had his own agenda, and I'm not surprised these rumors have come out that Levy wanted him to play certain players. He was like, no, all that kind of stuff. But even so, you're still playing Sanchez. You're still playing Dyer. You're still playing, you're still bringing on Sissoko in the Aston Villa game. Like, you're still making those decisions. So it doesn't really bear weight. Either way, I think we still have a team selection question on this podcast to talk about. We're basing this about Winks and Lo Celso and Noah and Ndombele with Mourinho probably would have been Sanchez and number 2 at right back. That kind of stuff in there. So I'm not ready to give him a pass and go, oh well, maybe there was friction. Look, man, he was done, and then he caused a lot.
I think. Sorry, don't get me wrong. I think Mourinho was done at that point. I'm more talking about Levy, like his. I guess you could call it just steadying the ship. Like league position is more important than the cup. But do you think it was in that moment?
Boy, do you know what some of these fans have been pushing this agenda, which is giving me the ick. It's one of those things where everyone thinks if Mourinho was in charge of the final, then he would have done better or perhaps even won, which I disagree with. And now these rumors have come out from that. And I think just based on what he's been like this season, like when is he rested players? Really, like his squad management has run our players into the ground as it is. Like I didn't see anything to suggest he would have rested players for one game and play better players for the other, because he's not really been doing it all that much, to be honest.
Agreed. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a cup final, but what? We're going to rest our team to play a week later against Sheffield United? Do me a favour, man. I'm not hearing that.
I think that the accusation was should we have rested players for the Southampton game? I think Levy wanted the full straight. Allegedly, like this has all come from nowhere, really. Yeah, but the accusation was that Levy apparently wanted Mourinho to play a full strength against Southampton, whereas apparently Mourinho wanted to rest players, sacrifice any chance of top 4, and just play full strength in the final. And then apparently it was a slight on Levy's mentality that he wanted Mourinho to play a full strength team against Southampton to get a chance to top 4 instead of going full strength for the final. Which again,
small probability though, man. Such a small probability, like
and the thing is,
as well.
The thing is, you're able to play a weekend lineup against Southampton if you beat Newcastle.
Yeah,
Newcastle, right?
There we go.
Newcastle, beat Everton, and then we can talk about resting players. None of this cool. Do you know what I mean? I'm done with man.
Because if you beat Newcastle, you go top 4. So you actually are in control. And then you beat Southampton, you're further in control. It's true, Dave. Dave, you're right, man. You're right.
That's the fact. Yeah. That's the fact.
So, I get it. It's all too late now. Everyone's going, oh my gosh, no, we can get to top 4. Look, teams around us have been dropping points left, right, and centre. We know Liverpool are inconsistent.
West Ham are nasty, man.
Right.
All of these Mourinho stands, they are nasty, man. All of them, man. No, honestly, man.
Beat Newcastle, then we can talk. I can't believe I can't say that about Spurs, Don't let Joe Linton be on a hat trick against you. Come on, man. What foolishness is this, man? Joe Linton literally scored 4 goals in the league or something, and half of them have been against us. Like, he defines the whole, guys, it's only Spurs. That's what he's got tattooed on his leg.
Bro, Spurs are a charity. We were set up whenever we were set up, was it 1883 specifically, bro, to give Joe Linton a goal, bro, once a season, bro. That's what he had in mind. But look, I mean, let's talk about Erik. I don't think we've given them any attention so far this pod. What are you guys' feelings on Erik? I saw the what do you call it? Could you even call it a protest? It was a disturbance. A little. It looked like about 1920. Like when you go on a school trip and you've got two classes standing side by side. That's what it looked like. It looked like a school trip to the stadium. I saw people like holding bags of Spurs merchandise and stuff. Like, it didn't even really look like it looked nothing like, say, like Chelsea protest or whatever. Like, that looked more like anger. Ours didn't really look like anger. So I guess what I'm asking is, do you really think people actually don't like Erik, or do you think it's just like the thing to do at the moment because of the whole ESL thing?
No, I think people are justified and in their protests and distaste for Erik. I've been a bit of an apologist for Levy in the past, and I think this whole European Super League thing's just brought it all to a head. Even though that Stevie package was looking juicy still, but that with Erik and Joe Lewis, yes, like people make these comparisons with Roman Abramovich. Like, okay, he stays on his yacht most of the time. Joe Lewis, head of or whatever it is, head of Erik, stays on his yacht most of the time. But because Joe Lewis, he lives on his yacht, he should be funding cash into the team, and it would have been really nice if he did. To be honest, I can't knock that, but at the same time, it's just not happening. So, as I say, I think Levy, as it stands, has done a pretty good job considering he's had no cash injections, and overall, if we did have funding or investment at the right time, it could have even benefited them. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we are winning titles in and around the 16-17 season, if they helped invest and we're winning titles, we become a much more attractive club to buy. So, yeah, I have no doubts that they're looking to sell us on in the future, but it's the fans are directing their hate towards the board at the moment. Like, there's this supporters trust motion which is filed against the board for the whole board to be removed. And I read the statement from them, and I thought, okay, it's probably an accumulation of things over the years. Like, okay, not kicking on when we originally got in the Champions League 2010 times, fair enough. When we didn't kick on 16-17, we didn't start a player for 18 months, yada yada yada. No, they focused completely on the whole Super League thing. It's just like I feel like, yeah, too many of these fans have been enabled by Gary Neville just saying breakaway, breakaway, breakaway constantly. And they're kind of protesting for the wrong reasons. They should be protesting against Enik, like that would be valid in my eyes. But to protest against the board, against the European Super League, which looked inevitable with or without us anyway. Yeah, the tournament was executed poor. Like, it was poorly. That's been my biggest disappointment. Like, they didn't actually seem to have a plan in place. I didn't agree with teams being in there for 23 years and couldn't be removed. That's fine. But yeah, for people to be protesting against something which could have really put us in a great position, not just financially, just being able to kick on, keep Kane, and add to the team, stay in the Premier League, where a lot of fans didn't think we would stay in the league. It's all nonsense. If all these protests are coming from people to remove the board purely because the European Super League, I know it sounds a bit harsh, but get over it. It's one of those things. Like, there's much more valid things you could be protesting for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the problem with the board, runs deep. Like Owen just said, you're thinking back to that transfer window where we didn't sign anyone. Like I said, we went 18 months, and just poor decisions over the years. I think it's now time for a refresh. I think the lack of trophies when we're at our height wasn't just down to lack of investment. I think we also have to look at the fact that, our manager didn't prioritize the domestic cups. I would have killed for just, even like we look at Arsenal, across just down the way, they were in their bad rut, but they got to a point where they're like, you know what, we win one game a month from January onwards, and we're in the cup final, and it's all, we go from there. So it's one of the ones where, Poch, obviously he came out and said it's Champions League or Premiership or bust. So, and I think that kind of filtered into, maybe it was coming from the board, I don't know. But they definitely kind of just hedged their bets a bit when we should have been kind of going for it. We're not Man City, we're not Chelsea, we don't have unlimited funds. But Levy's not a gambler in that respect, and I think, a fresh impetus would be necessary. And I think the little school day out that everyone had on that Wednesday or whatever, it was weird. They were protesting, but also buying merch. Yeah. Like, But do better.
It's strange, man.
Yeah, but that said, there is one. I'm hearing there's one planned for the 15th of May, our last game. So that seems like it's gathering a lot of momentum.
I would say as well, because the last one was like, it was planned at it was really short notice. I think it was like 3 or 4 p.m. Like people are working. I think that's a part of the reason why it didn't look as good.
Yeah.
Like I think the next one will be a lot better. So like you guys said, like they are justified in some ways. Obviously, some other ways maybe not as justified. But what can you do, man? They're all going to come together anyway. So I mean, if you're Erik out, this is probably your best time to be a Spurs fan. So keep an eye out for that. And if you're Erik in, you can get Erik out and Erik in maybe at the same time. Who knows?
Right.
Did we have listeners' questions today, lads? We didn't have listeners' questions, did we?
Nah, I don't think we did.
No? Okay. I guess the last thing on my agenda is this ESL breakup fee. So the figure I'm hearing is about 130 million, I think. And like let me not pretend to know like how that works or who that affects or anything. I'm just thinking of it in terms of pure transfer fees. Yeah, that's how my brain works. That I'm just thinking of it as if it was 130 million worth of transfer fees. Yeah, like just the players that like that's more than we spent. I'm sure that's more than we spent this season.
Yeah,
130 million. So to lose that on a fee, like for that to go into Perez's pocket, has Perez even left the ESL yet? I feel like he's trying to be the last man in.
He's the last man in
the dynasty.
Yeah, I respect it, man. I respect it. He's been the only one that's put his neck on the line, like fully out there as well. He's on the chopping block, just there fighting his fight.
Just
bless him.
He's probably out there talking to Porto or someone like that.
Just anyone you can find, he's just going to be hollering Marie.
Porto, Marseille, Leipzig.
Anyone with any European heritage at all. Europa Cup Winners' Cup, Intertoto, anything, bro.
Yeah, Fulham. Intertoto Cup Winners.
Boy.
Who's going to listen? Who's going to listen?
I'll be more pissed if Red Star Belgrade get a stimulus package over us. Mad. No, I don't know how this fine would even be called, because with this European Super League almost being in like an idle state, we don't necessarily even have to break away from it to incur this fine anyway, because if it's not happening, then there's no need for us to break away from it, unless UEFA or the Premier League decide to punish us still, which I don't think will happen anyway. But yeah, it is a weird one. Maybe the money will go to JP Morgan. Maybe Florentino Perez had this plan all along and put these clubs in these knowing situations. And if they broke away from his league, he can just take all of these fines.
You'll buy Messi, man. He's going to bring Messi to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Imagine that he had another plan, though. Like was it Figo he done that to?
Yeah, I was just getting the flashbacks of him in that corner. Trying to take that corner.
Oh man, incredible.
I don't know. I know. We've seen stuff like this before. We've seen FFP or whatever. Whenever it's the figure that is quoted is for the media.
Yeah.
But the clubs, lawyers, they'll figure that out. They'll be like, cool. It'll be payments over the next 23 years. I don't see them being in a position where they're going to go up to Man City, Arsenal, Tottenham and go, right, 130 million by the 30th of July. They're not going to do that. Do you know what I mean? Because they all know, and let's face it, they all know that these clubs are affected by COVID anyway, whether you're the super rich or not. They also know that they need these clubs to gear up the transfer market. Without the big clubs spending money in the transfer market, it all falls apart, really. And the kind of attention around the Euros, they're going to want players, being talked about around the Euros, all that kind of stuff. If all the clubs, all the the biggest 20 clubs or whatever, 12 clubs in Europe have a situation on their hands where they're paying out 130 million, to FIFA or UEFA or whoever it's going to, it's not going to be a good look. So they'll figure out a way to kind of stagger the payments or keep it on a hush. It'll be 130, and there'll be like all these sub clauses. They end up paying 5 million, and they'll be fine. But they have to be seen to be doing something because otherwise Gary Neville might talk about you on your podcast. Whatever.
Energy. So to end the pod, I think we should at least say the word Sheffield United once. And maybe talk about like what we want to see from that match, like lineup predictions. Yeah, man. Like I just want to see Ndombele. I'm thinking. So Ndombele hasn't played under Mason at all, right? Am I right?
He played against Southampton, but he got taken off on like the 60th minute.
Okay. So I just want to see some more continuation of that. I want to see Ndombele again. I'm not fussed if Kane gets a bit of a rest. Maybe depends how he feels. I guess if he's fit, he's fit. But if it's like a rushing back thing, I mean, I'd be happy for him to have a bit of a rest now. And yeah, everything else. I mean, I'm not feeling too attached to football right now, if I'm being honest.
It's one game a week, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. And there's a lot of players who have got impressed, man. Like Dele has barely played. Bergeron is almost free from the shackles of Mourinho. Like Vinicius didn't even get on the bench for the final. Like there's players who have things to prove, man. I need to see it. Like I know there's not much to play for, but at this point, man, like get the guys who haven't played much. They need to get out there to prove themselves, man. And at least, like we maybe suggested before, like what Levy would like is for them to be at least in the shop window, so we can see actually if we are going to keep them or if we're not going to keep them, man. That's what I want to see.
You're interested to see if Dele gets on the pitch. Obviously, he's got his new hairstyle now, Dele Marley. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets on the pitch and where we go from there. But yeah, I don't know. Mason just pissed me off on Sunday, so I don't really care. Team selection, you think he would play Ndombele against Man City, and he doesn't. So, don't know.
Lost the already.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the whipping boys anyway. So, like any result against them, come on, man. Like, there's no reason for us to even be. Man, just get the win and just fucking forget.
Yeah, get the win and bounce.
So we all predicting a win?
No, I think they're going to pop us off the park, to be honest. No, I watched them against Brighton, to be fair. They genuinely played very, very well. I think they've got their tails up confidence-wise. They've got literally nothing to lose now. They're actually more well-versed in their style of play than we are. I think we're still going to get caught doing too much again. Starting lineup-wise, I'd like to see a continuation of the centre-back pairing, Dier and Alderweireld. I think Aurier can continue right back. I'm not so sure about Reguilon left back again. I think he needs to take at least a game out. Yeah, midfield three for me, just for the ball retention. Højbjerg, Winks, and Ndombele. I think Son might need to be put on ice a little bit as well, you know. Yeah, like his performance. Actually, no, scratch that. I think Kane needs to be put on ice. Put Son through the middle, Bergwijn back in the team, and then I guess it will have to be Lucas Moura, whichever on their respective sides. But yeah, I think we're going to get caught doing too much again, and Sheffield United might just run through us. I think they're going to take it 2-1.
Wow.
Wow. It's brave. Well, let's see.
Spurs at home, right? Spurs at home.
Sorry?
Spurs at home, right?
Yeah, Spurs at home.
Yeah, Spurs 2-0.
No, we're not.
Are we not at home?
No, we are.
We are at home. Yeah, you're at home.
Yeah, I think there's got a bit too much quality, and I think a lot of the guys have things to prove after the performance on Sunday. So I'm going 2-0. 2-0 at home. I think
2-0.
Actually, do you know what? I hope Dele plays just to shut some of these people up online about his new hair. I think these people have been. I only just caught it like in the 5 minutes before we started recording the pod, when the threads were being put in the group, and there's obviously white people going on and feeling like they have to be extremely opinionated about his new hairstyle. If you guys haven't seen it and you're just listening, he's got dreadlock extensions. He's got the Rude Hillock vibe going on. I like it personally. There was a question if Ali Gold kind of opened him up to it. I kind of read it. I had a quick look at his article and he said that Delhi had been receiving praise for it and blah blah blah. So I don't think it's a case of Ali Gold playing a part in it, because everyone's going to see him on the weekend, and those people who are tweeting about it are going to tweet about it regardless. It's just annoying that they feel the need to, and genuinely, I mean, it's not going to happen. Social media will social media, but they can wind their necks in.
I mean, footballers, man, get new hairstyle. What's the news, man? Honestly,
it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, man. You get like, even down to, I guess Pogba is like the best example. You have like pundits talking, like discussing his haircut before the match. Like, is he focused on the game? It's like, he just got a haircut, man.
Man could get a shape up and they'll say that about him as well. It's so annoying.
It's not that deep, man. Like, I to be honest, I meant to mention Dele's haircut in the pod, and it just completely left my mind, because it's just hair, man. Like, I don't have any difference on anything, man. But yeah, that's life, that's football, I guess. Hopefully it is a sign of Dele just wanting to or seeing like a new start or something like that. And hopefully it's not like a midlife crisis kind of thing, innit? But yeah, it's been a good pod. Make sure you tune into the rest of the Touchline Fracas gang. I think there's a fight card this weekend, actually.
This Friday, Arsenal, Liverpool against Man United this weekend. So yeah,
Copy and Fracas versus Muga. That should be a good one. Make sure you're locked in. Tune into the Discord as well. Discord gets crazy. Just make sure you're locked in. Also, sign up to the Spurs Patreon. You're getting some episodes on there. There's a free episode on there at the moment, so make sure you sign up and tune. It's absolutely free. No money needs to change hands. Don't worry, guys. Just sign up and take it in.
Definitely get into the Discord. Arsenal getting cooked right now by Villarreal.
Emery, Hive, stand up.
If you're on a blood,
10 men, isn't it?
Tip, yeah, bro, get onto that, man. It's good vibes, good banter on there as well, man.
We got Foyth, man. I'm gonna go check that out. Nah, let me not lie to you.
And they're down to 10 men as well. Oh my god.
What's that? Arteta out tonight, yeah?
Yeah, midnight.
I end it on that. Nice one, lads. Nice one. Next week.
All right.
In a bit.
Peace.